Welcome back to A Shark's Perspective. So in January of 2020, there'll be a new conference coming up called Lead Generation World. And if you're like me, focused on driving growth for a business in any form, then you'll definitely want to consider this conference in Denver, Colorado. Michael Ferree is the CEO and founder of Lead Generation World, a conference whose mission is to help companies and individuals navigate the lead generation ecosystem. And on this episode, we'll discuss lead generation, conferences and expo halls, picking speakers, actionable content, best practices, improvements in tech, skiing in January, 7 gill fishes, and a lot more. So let's tune into a lead generation conference founder with a lead gen shark on this episode of A Shark's Perspective. Michael, thank you so much for joining us today on A Shark's Perspective. If you would, tell us a little bit about your background and your career to date.
Yeah, definitely, Kenneth. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
It's always good to get on some podcasts and talk a little shop. About me. I'm out of San Diego, California, beautiful San Diego. I've been in the performance marketing industry for, I don't know, just over 15 years. Started out working for a mortgage company where they hired me to run all their lead buying. And so we were buying, I don't know, 300-400 leads a day. And we had about 100 LOs across California, or San Diego and Arizona. And it was quite the whirlwind experience back then with buying so many leads and working with so many different vendors. I then went to the other side of the table and managed the marketing for a lead generation company, where we generated a bunch of mortgage insurance and health insurance and auto insurance leads. And then, started working with Jay Weintraub with LeadsCon and help take over the Leads Council, which is an association that advocates for best practices in performance marketing and regulatory best practices. And now I'm starting Lead Generation World and going from there.
So if you kept your brand hat on, per se, from when you were back in the mortgage industry, if you look at it from that perspective, how do you view the evolution today of lead generation and where we are from a lead buying perspective?
Yeah, well, it's funny because there's been so much evolution with regards to a lot of different things, but a lot of it's remained the same. At the end of the day, brands and lead buyers are still looking for opportunities that are going to convert at the highest rate and at the lowest cost per sale. But how they do that, all the different added technologies around data, analytics, and appending different things to ensure that the consumer has the most intent has really changed and really become more of a forefront opportunity for buyers. And they're just becoming more efficient and more mature with how they buy leads and do their marketing. And but at the same time, Kenneth, it's funny because not a whole lot's changed either.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I recognize is just the number of companies that are putting out not necessarily great leads, but the companies that putting out bad leads today, there are a lot more of them than were there before.
Yeah.
And I hate to call it anything other than just, bad leads, but it's hard today on the buying side to find good companies that can produce quality leads. It was that way before, but today with so much automation, regardless of protection we put around it, it just seems like there's been so many companies that have jumped on creating leads rather than creating quality leads. And I'm just wondering if you've seen the same thing with that evolution.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's so this is
You have to be more responsible buyers is what I'm trying to say.
yeah. And this at the core is like one of the crutches of what I do and why I do it, because
Exactly.
as a lead buyer, you're talking with companies and they're all pitching the same exact thing. They're all saying, oh, we have the best leads. They all come from search marketing or they come from SEO or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, you never really find out exactly how good the data or the leads are until you spent money, and that's unfortunate. And that was one of the reasons why I started, gosh, it was 15 years ago, but started writing a blog when blogs were cool,
Yeah.
and was writing about the challenges and issues that I was having, just with the hope that maybe there were other lead buyers out there, other people like me that would come together and we could figure out. Don't tell me, your secrets, or don't tell me like who's really working great for you if you don't want to, but maybe just tell me which ones are doing bad. That way I don't have to go out there and, spend a ton of money and, work with companies that shouldn't be out there, because yeah, they all kind of look the same. It's unfortunate. A lot of these companies look exactly the same. They have the same profiles, and you just don't know.
Agreed. So what do you think has really improved other than the tech? So with the evolution that we've seen, where do you think lead generation's gotten better?
Yeah, I think it's gotten a lot better in that we do have the fraud technologies. We do have the insights to spotting fraudulent traffic, and it's always changing. The fraudsters are always one step ahead to some
Yeah.
extent. But we're able to see this sort of stuff. But not only that, now brands are more aware on how to really convert inquiries that come in, whether it's from a third party or whether it's from their own website or their own efforts. We now know, we have the science behind lead management and the platforms available that we can utilize to really ensure that we're communicating with the prospects, we're reaching out to them in a reasonable way. Because 10, well, even 5 years ago, 10 years ago, it was call, if you get a lead, an inquiry in, it was call it as many times as possible, period.
Right.
Just
Right.
call the crap out of the lead.
Yeah.
And that doesn't work. Consumers don't want that. They want a quote, or they want you to reach out to them. They have raised their hand. Now, if it's through a third party, they don't always maybe know that their data is going to be given to multiple companies, and that's a problem. And that's a reason why leads don't always convert very well, because there's a lack of understanding from the consumer what exactly is going to happen. But now I think people are more measured. They know, obviously they want to contact the inquiry as soon as possible, but that doesn't mean they have to call it 300 times. They could send a text message if appropriate, if compliant. They can send an email. They can follow up at different times. It's just a little bit more measured, I think, approach that's good for the consumer and good for the brands.
So you've decided to go out and do your own thing now, which is pretty exciting. This is going to be a great conference coming up in January, Lead Generation World. What was the reasoning for that? Why at this point in your career did you decide this is what you wanted to go out and do?
Yeah. Well, it goes back to those same issues I was having. And I gained a passion for really helping companies and providing them with information to be successful with performance marketing or lead generation. For many years, I was running the Leads Council, and we were doing networking events. We put on the Buyer Summit, which takes place at LeadsCon, and it was all with the effort of really just helping companies be successful. And that's really my passion. And so, more recently, I've done some events here and there, but really wanted to create an event sort of by the industry for the industry.
Sure.
And bring together the community of performance marketers and brands and service providers together, and really provide them with what I think is going to be great content. But it's really to specifically answer your question, it's really just a passion of mine to help really companies, and especially lead buyers, because I was in their shoes, and help them sort of navigate and find the right companies to work
Yeah.
with. And I think if you have a healthy buyers and advertisers that are doing well, and they know the process, and they're working with the right companies, then the overall industry continues to grow and be really, really healthy.
So for lead buyers in particular, when you're trying to map out a strategy, I've talked to a lot of lead buyers who go to conferences, and this could be really apply to any kind of conference. You know what the culture of the topic is of the event. If it's lead generation, maybe it's mortgage insurance or social, content, whatever. But a lot of people know that there are going to be a lot of great speakers that come, some from brands, some from agencies, some from influencers. How do you help map out for a lead buyer, for somebody who needs to go to a conference to get help to grow their company? What kind of guidance do you give them if they're going to lead generation world so that it becomes a really fruitful and meaningful experience back to them? Because I've spoken with a lot of people who go to a lot of different conferences, and it's very easy to get lost in the expo halls.
Oh, yeah.
You walk through a typical conference, you see a lot of booths for people that have paid good money to represent their product. But a lot of times people are just looking to help grow their business, don't have a clue where to start, other than maybe knowing the name or the title or the culture of it. There are a lot of even lead generation conferences. They may not go where to sort of follow a path to go find the pieces of the puzzle to help grow their business.
Yeah, especially a young or a new.
If you're an entrepreneur with a limited budget,
Yeah. You go to a conference and you can get lost, and you can walk around and before you know it, you haven't got anything done.
That's just
you just
in
sort
the
of
expo
walked
hall.
around. Yeah, that's just expo hall, right? And it's hard. And then you look at the agenda and you go, geez, which one should I be
Exactly.
in? For us at Lead Generation World, we really, in fact, we have the agenda out, and when you go there, you'll see a video that shows what you should do, or what sort of sessions you should go to. But we try to really be directional with a lot of our content. So we'll have specific tracks for the insurance, lead buyer. We'll have one for the mortgage guy, the solar, the EDU buyers, and they'll be able to identify what sessions. Oh, this is for me because it's insurance, and it's a buyer focused session. So we really try to create a menu of items that are perfect for that diet. you know so yeah, but it's tough because as a attendee of a conference, yeah, you can get around, you can get lost. And not only that, if you're maybe more well known, I suppose, I guess, or more, you come from a brand that a lot of service providers want to talk to, you can get stuck not even seeing a session at all, right? And just having meetings after meetings after meetings,
Absolutely.
which is great. But I do think that when you come to a show, you need to balance it out. Have your meetings, be very specific on who you meet with, and in my opinion, you should be meeting with people that you've just started a conversation with, maybe that you don't know, not with the guys that you've been working with for the last 2 years.
100%.
You can have that call, you can have that meeting later. Have it with people that you really want to get to know, and face to face. Do a couple of those meetings, but then also be sure to get to the sessions, because that's where you're really gonna learn and take away a lot of information, and take it back to your organization and apply it. And then, of course, the exhibit hall floor. At least spend some time walking around, finding new companies, talking with them, getting to know it. Because conferences, I think, people go, well, I'm just gonna go and I'm gonna hang out at the bar. I'm gonna not even go into the conference,
Sure.
and meet with people, or just do everything outside of the four walls of the show. But there's a lot of value when you go into the show, that at least at Lead Generation World, there's going to be a lot of value to be inside the four walls, to meet new companies, and attend some of the sessions, because we got some really cool stuff with regards to the sessions and the content.
and expo halls are a great tchotchke trick-or-treat event.
Yeah,
We're gonna get
yeah, if you have kids, yeah, for sure, you're grabbing all
Or
the.
couches and pins and hand sanitizers, peppermints, and everything else. But it is trick-or-treat for tchotchkes. So, what are you seeing from speaker pitches? Obviously, a lot of event organizers get pitched to have speakers. It's always a draw to have big brands, but you also need a lot of subject matter experts that come in that are agency and influencers, thought leaders, whatever in the space. Have you seen the evolution of that change from, say, 10 years ago or 15 years ago when you first got into this, to now that you're hosting your own event? That must have given you a little bit of a different kind of view.
Yeah. I think it's, what this is. I think this is a pitfall for some shows, and something, what we do at Lead Generation World is be different,
Yeah.
in a lot of different ways, and try to think differently than other shows, and we're not we don't deem ourselves event people. We're lead gen people, and we want to continue to provide
Great point.
information and provide good content for the industry, and that's it. And so what happens, I think, is yeah, you fall into a trap where you're like, oh, let's get that guy from Facebook on here, or better yet, let's get this big brand advertiser up. But at the end of the day, they get up there and it's nice, and you think you're going to get some great information, but they're not open. They don't open the book and really get into the details of content, and you leave the session kind of wanting more.
Yeah.
And so we focus not on necessarily the brand or the company that our speakers are at. It's what they can provide. And at the end of the day, we really, really want content to be actionable, in that that you're going to go out there and you're going to provide not just, hey, mobile marketing is something you should be doing, but hey, this is how you implement it. This is exactly what we're doing, and this is what you should be doing, and what you can do, that they can go back to their organization and apply it. So when we look at speakers, it's really about finding content that is wanted and needed by obviously the attendees, but that is going to provide real detailed information. So whether that's a brand, we don't focus on it. So that's why you'll see a lot of great we have a lot of great speakers on the website now. They're not necessarily from the big brands, and it's not because they don't provide great content. In fact, they're up there because, and they're participating because of the content. And that's like, I can't stress enough how important providing good content is
Yeah.
to the show for us. I mean, one of the things I think, you get a conference going, and after a year or two, it's pretty easy. All these speakers send their speaker requests, and you plop them into the agenda, and voila, you got your show. And it's like, yeah, but that's not really thoughtful, and it's not really providing the content that's really needed. It's just
Hmm.
sort of plug and play, and I think that's something shows fall into, that's detrimental at the end of the day.
Any speakers that just are probably pretty amazing that, like sharks that you've heard of?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm excited to have you there. That's
Oh,
for
that's
sure.
right. Yeah,
I think that's going to be really, really great
you do have
to
some really
talk
good
about.
speakers on there.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, we've got all kinds, and I'm really excited about the content that we've got planned. I encourage people to go check out the agenda. We've got our keynote, Jeff Chrysler, which, you know, he's a he's a behavioral science advocate and also a comedian. He's really, really entertaining,
Yeah.
and I just love, when it comes to performance marketing or marketing in general, it's really about persuasion, and it's also about figuring out how to persuade people to make the decisions you would like them to make. And fortunately, humans are somewhat predictable in that way, and behavioral science and economical science really is exciting and applicable to lead gen and how we get people to complete forms or whatever, or buy a certain product or whatever it may be. And he's going to be talking a lot about that, which is going to be really, really great. So I'm excited for Jeff, and we've got a ton of other speakers that are going to be providing great content as well.
Yeah, I'm excited about speaking as well about audio, specifically with where it is with lead generation. And, just with audio alone, we talk so much about Alexa and home and all how great that is for delivering great content. And I love all of that, but I also love to where it turns into conversions and traffic for a company and how to leverage it that way. So I love the performance attitude out of your conference sessions and what I've seen
Yeah.
from all the speakers. And I've seen some of them speak personally, and they are good. But
Yeah.
kind of elaborate, if you will, unpack the type of content that's being presented in these. If I'm somebody who's in the mortgage industry like you were, for example, what's the type of content that I should look forward to consuming going to your event?
Yeah. So we've got, okay. So what I think is really cool about what we're doing is, we've got your panels, and we've got presentations, but we also have some what we call unconference discussion groups, and it's something. I've done in the past. It's really, really powerful because you go into these sessions and they're unconference style, which meaning yeah, we're going to have some experts on stage, but really the Q&A is directed at the attendees. So the attendees in that room really get an opportunity to not only hear and ask questions, they get to answer questions.
Yeah.
And so when you're in that room, you get to hear from your peers. What are they doing? What is the, mortgage XY, XYZ company doing, or what are they struggling with? And you really get to um, hear and learn from your peers, which I think is one of the most powerful things you can do, because you're all on the same page. You all know that what struggles there are within that industry, and to be able to sort of come together and talk about issues that they're all facing, and figure out how maybe one company's overcoming those issues, and you get to hear that. So we have those types of sessions, which are going to be really, really great, and I'm excited about. But we have, it's content from, like you just said. I'm actually really, excited about hearing about voice, because
Yeah.
everyone's doing, hey Alexa this, or hey Google, and but how does that really play into marketing these days, and performance marketing? So that's a whole uncharted area that I'm excited to actually listen to. But yeah, we've got all kinds, from lead buying 101 to getting right into the weeds on voice.
Agreed. So I love the idea that you have it in January, but why in January? And why in Denver in January? It's so cold. But
What, you don't like the cold?
yeah. Well, if like I said, we had this
Yeah.
discussion earlier. If you're a skier, which there are a lot of people
Yeah.
are, it is an amazing place to go do a conference. But why in January? In all honesty,
Yeah.
for most people, whether your
It's
fiscal year starts then or your calendar year starts then, it's a good time to have a conference to start looking at putting lead gen plans together.
it is so hard, Kenneth, to figure out when to have a
Oh
show. There
yeah,
must be 100 shows a month,
seems
conferences, and
like it.
people
Yeah,
got to go here, people got to go here, there. And really, it was about wanting to kick off the year, and every year moving forward, with a show that really brings the community together,
exactly.
so that they can hit the ground running. And so yeah, we January was just a good time for between other shows and what was going on within that sort of conference ecosystem. uh and the weather thing is like, okay, and we wanted to be in Denver. We wanted to make it easy for people to get to,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
be central. We don't want to be in Las Vegas. We're pretty adamant about not doing a show in
Right.
Vegas, because we really want to have it be a meaningful workshop sort of style, very interactive, very organic, and exciting show, where people are involved and participating. Not to say that you can't do that in Vegas, but it's just a different feel.
Yeah.
So Denver is such a great city, and it's like, get to it pretty easily. With regards to weather, it's like, geez, man, we had storms. We had to, I think this in March, didn't we have like a snowstorm hit the Midwest and East Coast, and you just
You
can't
never
predict
know.
it these
No, you
days.
wouldn't want to have
Yeah,
a you
who
wouldn't want to have
knows?
an event in Miami in, September. I mean, the chance
Yeah,
of a tropical
right.
storm coming through would, probably be
Yeah.
better chances
Well,
than snow in Denver.
yeah, exactly. And the other thing too is, it's one thing that's really important for us is to keep the show affordable.
Yes.
And while we could go to Arizona, or even my hometown, San Diego, prices would go up. And as there's different players within the ecosystem. When you think about a conference, you think about, you have your exhibitors and sponsors and those service providers that are trying to sell products and services, and then you have your advertisers and what I the lead buyers that I call. And they're different. It's harder for a lead buyer and advertiser necessarily to get a budget for a show. There's no
Sure.
real tangible return on investment. Even the biggest companies struggle to get budget to go to a show. So you got to keep it affordable. It's not like a lead seller that goes, okay, well, I'm going to go invest in the show, and I'm going to get, a handful of clients out of it, and it's great. They can spend, a lot of money on a conference. It's not the same. So we want to keep it affordable for the biggest brands and the littlest brands to come to the show and benefit from the content. So Denver's affordable, centrally located, and we're just going to pray for no snow.
And a great airport. So it's
Yeah, and if
one.
it does snow, right, it can handle it, right? It's
Yeah,
one of those
the
cities that
airport
can
could house
handle
the entire conference inside of it.
it. Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
so if I'm looking at my conference dollars for the year, let us know, why should we consider Lead Generation World? Because, like we said, there's a lot of conferences to consider. There are several decent lead generation conferences out there.
Oh
Why?
yeah, yeah.
What's a differentiator for Lead Generation World, and why should we keep this in our plans for 2020 and beyond?
There are a lot of great shows out there, and it's a good question. I mean, what I think when you look at Lead Generation World, if you are a quote unquote doer in the industry, you're somebody that really wants to go to a show and get value out of it, and you're
Yeah.
tired of going to shows that just aren't hitting the mark with regards to content and networking, that are maybe just getting a little away from the ground floor of our industry, then Lead Generation World is a show to come back into a community, where the event is by the community for the community. And we have, like I said, my passion is around providing really great information and content for those companies within our ecosystem and really helping them. And so, if you want to come to a show that's solely focused on really providing great content that's going to help you throughout the year in 2020, I think you got to come to Legion World, especially when you look at, the prices, it's affordable. We're going to have a lot of great companies there. In fact, if you look at the sponsors, the top sponsors in the industry are supporting the event. We've got a lot of buyers from across insurance, mortgage, EDU, and solar, already registered to come, and they see the value as opportunities within the content networking. And I think it's one of those things that you have to come and experience to see the difference. It's hard to articulate it, but I think when it comes down to the feel of the show, you're really going to see and feel the difference between other conferences.
So if I'm in the space, a lot of people are looking for good, smart performance marketers, and where to find them. I mean, we go to find leads all the time, but we also go to network and find people that sometimes go work for us in some form or capacity. If I'm trying to hire somebody, what's the advice you would give somebody as to where to go look for somebody who knows the performance marketing space? Because this comes up a lot to me personally. I hear from a
Yep.
lot of different people.
Yeah, I mean this goes back to what I'm trying to do with Lead Generation World, which is continue to provide opportunities for the community to connect. And so we've started along with the event and the conference, and we'll have additional shows coming out as well. But we also want to help companies find the right rock stars of the industry.
Mm-hmm.
So we've launched LGW Jobs, which you can find on the website, which is a recruiting arm of Lead Generation World. So if you're a brand or if you're a lead seller and you're looking for whether if it's business development or if it's marketing or even an executive level employee, we can help you because we're
Yeah.
highly connected. We're sort of at the crossroads of performance marketing across all different positions, and so we help companies find those people. And on the flip side, if you're interested in hearing opportunities from companies that are in lead gen, and you know the industry, you know the processes, and you know the tech behind it, and you're experienced, then you can be a part of our community by joining LGW Jobs as well. So if opportunities come around, we'll bring them to you on an anonymous level and let you take a look at it. But yeah, it really comes back again to just providing resources for this community, this Legion ecosystem to come together and connect, and that's sort of our mission.
Well, and so you bring up a specific point. I've firsthand experienced this myself, where I was recruited into a position. But I'm curious, if are you hearing from people? I mean, obviously this was a problem, or you wouldn't have created this. But are you seeing where agencies and brands and companies are struggling with finding these people? And that's what drove you to
Yeah,
do this? Because I know, having been in the lead gen space, when you're talking about how a lot of different agencies that work with brands and the brands themselves don't necessarily, I mean, they get a lot of the things in marketing, but, you know, we've gone so far into the digital marketing world with social and content and everything else, but it's, and which is great. Those are still pieces to bring in leads, but a lot of the times the people behind that, they're writing that content may not have a performance mindset and understand. I have a big problem with most agencies because they don't understand lead generation at all. They don't get it.
absolutely.
It becomes a struggle and a fight with other people who are in the space, and that are trying to drive traffic, and they do perform necessary tasks for a brand, but
Yeah,
brands are living and breathing by how much business they bring in, and and the customers they keep. That's obviously incredibly important, but it goes so far beyond just creative or managing somebody's social engagement, things like that. And that's what is sort of the impetus for my question. Are you seeing that sort of, is that where the need came from? Is people just not being produced or being able to find people who can speak lead generation?
absolutely. And Legion is when we look at performance marketing, it goes so for you just can't you just don't want to hire some, a marketing person to go out there and run your Legion because whether it's conversion rate optimization, whether it's just knowing the right companies, whether it's fraud, like we talked about earlier, how to identify
Yeah.
trends or things that are happening to be able to see that, or if you're on the deeper internally on lead management side, how to work leads, how to set up a process for nurturing those leads, or even from an executive standpoint, what are the mechanics behind profit and loss with Legion, companies knowing how it all works is very specific,
Very.
and it's not something that you just go hire somebody and train. You want to hire someone that's experienced and that can shorten your learning curve. If you're a newer company with experimenting with leads, or if you're a very experienced company and you just want to continue to grow, it's important to find somebody with direct experience in this industry, and that's what we try to do. And it's hard to identify, and that's why we've got such a big network that's all performance marketers and executives, and a real resource. And so we looked at it and we're like, oh man, we need to continue to help companies find these individuals. And we get that, I'm sure you do too. Companies will go, hey man, do we're looking to hire this
All the time.
person
Yeah.
or somebody like this. And on the flip side too, I get, hey Mike, I'm looking for a change. If you know any companies looking for somebody with my experience, let them know. So really, it's just putting those pieces together and formalizing it, and really just continuing to help and letting people know that, hey, if you're looking for somebody, we can help you. And if you're looking for a job, or looking to continue to grow within our industry, then we can help you as well. And again, it comes back to just connecting individuals and companies together.
Well,
Something we like to do.
it's so much beyond. I mean, you don't want to hire generally a salesperson because a lot of times they don't know anything about marketing, even when their title said sales and marketing director. And you
Right,
don't want to
right.
hire somebody who, just because they know how to, load a list into Facebook and match it and then put a couple of dollars behind it, or, Google ads. There's a lot more to lead gen than that, but it seems to be a lot of times that's where half of those choices are made, one direction or the other. And now we've got this obscure CGO title that's replaced a lot of CMOs because they still can't figure out the space, but all the pieces have to work
Hmm.
together. It's just not a lot of people know how to utilize marketing to both service the customer but also to help grow a business as well. And it becomes a real niched talent to find. What are you seeing as your best tool for lead generation for a lead generation conference in its infancy?
Yeah.
You don't have 10 years of experience and pictures of people standing in the hallways
Yeah.
with, pina coladas and smiles. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's a I chuckle because it's a great question. It's like, okay, you're doing Legion, so how are you
yeah,
actually how are you
exactly.
doing your own Legion, right? That's a great question. We have and this I think this goes back to, oh man, that's a good question, Kenneth. And I love it because there's so much minutia to different campaigns and what they do. I believe in
Well, the number one
relationships.
thing you said
Yeah.
beforehand is you had to be on a shark's perspective. That was number one.
Yeah,
But number
exactly.
two would be
Yeah.
relationships.
Yes, absolutely. So the point is helping people and providing information. So what a lot of people do, they speak and all this sort of stuff, and it's a great way to share your expertise. And for us to get on a podcast together is just a great way to talk shop and all that sort of stuff. But more
Agreed.
specifically, yeah, we get we reach out. We do a lot of communication with a lot of leaders in the space, and continue to get the organic word out,
Here.
and
Yeah.
word of mouth. And we're actually just going to start launching some paid advertising. We're at the point, this is the first show where we're going to start doing that. We're about 5 months out, 4 months out, and we're going to start doing some fun advertising to start driving traffic to our website,
Great.
to our landing page,
Yeah.
and start generating some sales and leads here pretty soon. And with regards to advertising these days, there's just a lot of fun stuff with geofencing and targeting and behavioral targeting that you can do
Well,
to really
100%.
drive the
Yeah.
right to drive the right traffic to your website. So we'll be doing that. Yeah, we're gonna do our own Legion here coming up.
Well, you're doing the smartest way, though. You're tapping into that community you've built, which is what we tell brands
Yeah,
and companies all day long to build. And so once you're part of
yeah.
that, you can really, you know, take years of a good reputation and put it to work for you. So anyway, Michael, you live in the one of the most beautiful cities in the country with pretty good beaches but cold water.
Yeah.
I've done a dive there before. What is your favorite kind of shark and why?
Ooh, favorite shark. Okay, so
It could
I
be the one
swim.
speaking in January at your event, but
Yeah.
after me, what is your favorite kind of shark?
After you, so yeah, so you've done some diving here in San Diego, and
Yeah,
you'll know there's a bunch of sharks out here actually.
baby great
And
whites.
yep, I swim. I used to swim in La Jolla Cove a lot, and I'm unfortunately not swimming quite as much these days. But every once in a while, I'd swim over a shark or two, and the ones there, there's two generally. There's a seven gill shark and then a
Yeah,
soup fin shark, and they actually look kind of similar. But if I had, so I would have to choose one of those. I'd probably go with the seven gill, which is pretty popular here
nice.
in along the beaches. Yeah.
It rarely gets picked, and I've seen a seven gill in person, and it looks really odd to see up close, but they're beautiful. So
Yeah, so I had was swimming once out there, and we swim across this little cove to the beach and back. And while swimming back into the cove, I was swimming. I was the first one. There's a couple guys behind me, and I see this shark about, I don't know, 20 feet, very close. And he was probably about 5 to 6 feet
yeah,
in only about 9 feet of water. And I was like, oh geez, what's this, what's gonna happen here, right?
yeah,
And so I try to like look back and tell my friends, but they're just their heads down and swimming. So I look down, the shark sees me, I see it, and then it swims just slowly kind of around me and then takes off, and I just, put my head back down and swim into shore. But it was pretty close. It was, it's only 9 feet of water, but it was beautiful, and I've swam over them a couple times. It's all good, but it does give you a little bit of a chill at first
no
when you
kidding.
see them.
Well, Michael, it's that time of the show. Are you ready for the five most interesting, important questions you're going to be asked today?
Uh-oh. Yeah, I think so. Let's do it.
All right, number one: lead generation buying or lead generation selling?
Oh, buying all day. I've been on the side where you have to sell and it's not fun.
That's
I'd
true.
much rather be on the buy side.
That's true. Number two: email marketing or direct mail?
Oh, email all day long. I'll do email all day long because
Even in the lead
I
gen
know
space,
nothing.
you're going to say that. I'm surprised.
Yeah, yeah. Because email, listen, it's getting harder and harder to break into the inbox.
Oh, yeah,
But I just know email and what's going to convert from a content standpoint
absolutely.
than direct mail. I have no idea.
Number 3, San Diego or Denver?
Oh my God, San Diego all day. I'll choose San Diego over most places.
Yeah, I know. I don't know how you wouldn't. Number 4, as a lead generation conference organizer, let me ask you this: conference attendee or conference sponsor?
Ooh, one sort of pays the bills and one is there. I'm always for the attendee because I truly believe that content is why conferences are around and networking. So our focus always on the attendee.
Nice. Number 5, and the most important question you're going to be asked today is biscuits or cornbread?
Oh, cornbread. Cornbread all day long. Sweet, nice cornbread for sure.
Sweet, nice cornbread. Okay. So, Michael, where do people follow along with you? You've got a podcast, you've got a lead generation conference coming up. Where do you want to drive traffic to in the lead gen
Yeah, absolutely.
conversation for people to follow along?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Kenneth. Yeah, they can come to leadgenerationworld.com. We've got down the page, we've got our different podcasts posted. You know what? I I would encourage people to go to LinkedIn and follow the company Lead Generation World, and we also have a group on there, Lead Generation World Conference. And instead of we've got the Twitter and we've got Facebook and all that sort of stuff, but I really think people can get a lot out of Lead Generation World in between shows on LinkedIn. So yeah, go follow our company there.
You're not going to tell us to go to TikTok or Snapchat for all that?
Right?
I know. Michael, thank you so much for being with us today on A Shark's Perspective.
Thanks, Kenneth. I appreciate it.
So there was my conversation with Michael Ferree, the CEO and founder of Lead Generation World, a conference whose mission is to help companies and individuals navigate the lead generation ecosystem. Let's take a look at 3 key takeaways from my conversation with him. First, unfortunately for so many years, some lead generation vendors and partners drove not good quality leads. And when that grew, it created negative views of companies, and that's unfortunate. So many brands too often use bad practices because of a complete lack of understanding. Luckily, though, better tech is helping eliminate a lot of fraud. Compliance is becoming better. Brands are getting so much better at understanding their role in converting the traffic that comes to them, but there's still a lot of room to go for all parties. Second, you don't want to hire just a marketer or a digital marketer to run lead gen or salesperson. There is a difference in the performance mindset. As Michael said, it's hard to identify. Companies can and often do suffer because they have the wrong driver behind the wheel, and it's often because they don't understand what a car is, to keep that analogy. It's part sales and part every other part of marketing, but also part operations, customer service, finance, etc. Like anything, if you find the right person, then hire them. Because of that, and I also add that when people go to conferences, they can get lost in an expo hall looking for the right partners to help grow their business. Think about small businesses, especially ones with limited budgets. Having the right people make the right decisions for your business and growth is paramount. Third, so where does a lead gen conference go for lead gen to grow the conference? A lot of great plays with word of mouth, referrals, podcasts, advertising, and so on. The world of getting the word out has really evolved. A lot of it, though, is by spreading the word, by having the leaders in the space get the word out. And I'm most appreciative that Michael considered and agreed to be on my show. So lead gen listeners, check out Lead Generation World. Got a question? Send me an email to kenneth@asharksperspective.com. Thank you for the privilege of your time. And I don't know if Walt was thinking about lead gen at the time he said this, but it's a small world after all. So join us on the next episode of A Shark's Perspective.